Speaking Shona is one thing, but avoiding the mistakes is another. Welcome to the video showing the do's and don'ts of Shona culture. First, use the proper greetings. So for example, when greeting an elder, always use the word makadini, which means how are you formally, and a more casual, informal way is urise, which is slang. Secondly, when giving and receiving an item or handing over something, for example, money, food, or gifts, it's best you use both your hands. So your right supports your left hand as a sign of respect. Not doing so is considered a sign of disrespect. Kneeling, especially for women, is considered a sign of respect. Kneeling is an opportunity to show humility or respect, and people, especially women, are required to do this when either eating or serving food. Another way is clapping your hands together. The Shona term for this is kuvuchira. So it's a soft way of saying thank you to somebody. Usually some settings where this is used is when you're speaking to, when you're receiving something from an elder, you clap your hands, or when you are saying hello, greeting, you clap your hands. And this is done together with kneeling if you're a female. For a man, they also clap their hands, or called kuvuchira, but it's done in a different hand position. Avoiding direct eye contact for too long is also seen as another do that you should consider in the Shona culture, because staring or directly staring into somebody's eyes, especially if they're older than you, can be seen as being confrontational or disrespectful. It's also a requirement that when you're sitting in a place with an elder, especially table or where food is shared, the eldest person eats first and then everybody follows. But you don't notice it if you're a visitor, but that's the case because the elder tends to be the one who edges you on. Traditionally, in a setting, they let the elders or the guests start eating and then people naturally follow. So look out for that next time you're in a setting where you're with a group of people. Shona. Addressing elders by their titles as opposed to their names. That's the last do you need to be aware of. So when formally in the English culture, your mom is considered amai in Shona, or grandfather would be sekuru. However, you do know, especially when you're moving out and about, older people, friends and family tend to use the name of either a mother or a grandfather. So as a child, you do know what the name is, but it's disrespectful to also copy the peers of your parents or your grandparents by using their name. Instead, you use the name Sekuru or Amai instead of, if the granddad's name is John, instead of saying John, you'd say Sekuru. You wouldn't say Sekuru John. Now we're going to go through a list of don'ts that you should be aware of for the Shona culture. First one is walking over someone who is sitting down. So sometimes, just like in games, if you're a child, you play around and somebody is in the way, you just over them to not accidentally hurt them. That is not allowed if it was adults of the same age to jump over or step over them. You'd actually say, "Jokumira kufura, may I pass please?" Or you'd ask, "Can you move to the side?" And then they would move to the side, and then you can walk past. You wouldn't naturally jump over them. The second thing is using your left hand to give or receive. As I said earlier, formally, the expectation when receiving something is you'd reach out both your hands in unison to catch something. So doing just your right hand, even if you're right-handed, is not allowed. You'd have to use your right hand to receive or give something, because the left hand is disrespectful even if you're left-handed. Another don't you need to think about is whistling at night. Whistling is associated, especially at night, is associated with a way of attracting evil spirits or bad luck. So it's advisable not to whistle to get somebody's attention. You just keep quiet and keep it at that, because some Shona people are very superstitious and do believe in these things. Pointing directly at somebody with your index finger is also seen as rude. So instead, it's best to open your hand out or say over there, as opposed to pointing and saying over there with your hand. Another don't that you should consider is refusing food when offered. If somebody offers you food, it's considered offensive or a sign of bad manners. However, if you do need to decline food, you refuse it gratefully by saying, "We've already eaten," or "another time." That's what you'd say. You wouldn't just blatantly say, "No, I can't have that." Another Shona culture thing you need to be aware of: wearing a hat or cap indoors when greeting elders. This is especially for the male gender. It's considered disrespectful. So before people enter home or when greeting elders, they remove their hat as a form of respect. Crossing your arms. The posture of crossing your arms while speaking to an elder. This is considered dismissive or rude as a way of forming a barrier. So don't do that. Just put your hands to the side and don't cross your arms. It is customary when somebody enters a room to acknowledge that they have entered by greeting them. So instead of just looking them up and down and ignoring them, you would say "Makadini." So that's your introduction to, acknowledging somebody entering the room. So never ignore somebody who enters the room. Another don't is eating before being offering an elder present. So if there's an elder present and you're in a room and you're serving food, the elder is offered the food first, and then everybody else, according to age, is given food in that order, because it's a form of good manners to acknowledge the elder that's present in the room, and a form of respect. Standing with your hands on your hips when speaking to elder is also seen as a way of disrespect or being aggressive and confrontational. So don't be seen doing that. Passing between two people in a conversation without excusing yourself. So if you suddenly see people talking and instead of going around them, you go through them, seen as rude. And unless you politely ask for permission, don't do that as an option. Sitting on tables instead of chairs. Sometimes, let's say at events where there's those long tables and you have the option of sitting. There's a chair there, but people tend to go for the higher bit, which is the table. Don't be seen to do that because it's considered disrespectful. A table is always meant for food and the chair is meant to be sat on, so do not sit on tables. As an in-law, as we are now a multicultural society, you have people who are from cultures where they're more casual with their in-laws. But in the Shona culture, speaking too casually with your in-laws, even after you've been married to your partner for a long time, is considered formally disrespectful. You have to follow the protocols of that relationship and still be aware that they are your parents, the parents of your partner, and you are the murora in their case. So you should be aware.